Have a safer at home order out there right now. I don't know how many of you guys are in areas where they have that. Even if you're not, great idea. Just stay home. Let's stop the spread, get back to baseball as quickly as possible. I'm really excited about tonight's guest. There she is. Let's add. Y'all know Taylor McGregor? She is awesome. She used to do sideline slash clubhouse reporting for the Rockies. There she is.
Hi.
Hi. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Getting by, you know? It's weird with no baseball. How about
It's so weird. There's a lot of weird things going on in this world, but it's super weird for us to not be somewhere at a baseball stadium right now.
How about it? And obviously, this is all bigger than baseball. There are more important things going on in the world right now than baseball, but it doesn't mean you don't miss it just a little bit.
For sure. Absolutely. I think it, one thing that this isn't the first really horrible thing that's happened in our world. And I think when things like this happen, it always puts sports into perspective. But I also think sports have provided an outlet, and hopefully, even though we don't have them right now, eventually when we get back there, they can be that outlet as we try to get back to normal and get back to something that can make people smile, because we certainly need that right now.
There's no doubt about it. And I was telling people right before you joined, for those of you who don't know Taylor McGregor, she used to be the clubhouse reporter, sideline reporter for the Rockies broadcast. And now she got herself a big job going into this year with the newly formed Marquee Sports Network. That means you're covering the Cubs. Exactly what are you doing for them when things get back underway?
Well, thanks. So I'll be doing a lot of what I used to do, just clubhouse reporting, being with the team every single day. I think the biggest change for me day to day is going to be within the pre and post game shows, hosting segments and being more creative in the way that we do that. In Colorado, I was really just one to hit during the pregame show, but with the Cubs, it'll be a lot more showcasing the different ballparks that we're at and really hosting segments. So I'll get the chance to do that a lot more. And then lengthy interviews, features, for the magazine shows that will eventually come to our network. And there's I think what's cool about this role is getting to be creative with it. The launch of a new network, it's not a defined role. There's been a lot of conversations I've had with my bosses and with other people at the network, like, we're going to try things out. Some things might be successful, some things might not be. But what's cool about the opportunity that I have is kind of getting to create something that I want it to be, and not having to just slide into a role that it has been in the past, but making it unique for me. So I'm excited.
Now, you have a lot of history with the Rockies organization. Your dad was a part of the Rockies organization for a long time. Was it hard for you to leave that family?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, my family lives in Colorado, and I grew up knowing the Rockies, and it was a safe environment for me because they're an organization that's about 27 years old, and that's how old I am. And so I lived everything. It was like, I not only did I live the Rockies, but I knew basically every player who had ever played for them. And so I didn't really have to do any research when I got that job, because I just remembered, oh yeah, and this year this person did this thing. And like, switching to the Cubs, that was kind of scary for me, as it has such a huge history, that I didn't know everything about. And so having to learn all of that. But then, of course, the personal side, my dad was the president, and I had a lot of personal relationships in that organization. But I think for me, I kind of had to look at what I wanted career wise. And I think ultimately the path that I wanted to go upon it was best suited taking this job with the Cubs. So yeah, it was a little bit emotional, but I think everyone who I talked to thought that, and myself included, thought that this was the best jump for me. So I'm really excited to get this season started eventually and kind of be a part of the Cubs organization.
Well, officially, congratulations. I know we texted
Thank
back
you.
and forth a little bit. I was hoping that I would get to see you at some point in time this season.
I
Just
know.
now, don't know when that's going to be.
I know.
Now, that job is a job that a lot of people want. We both know that. The Yankees gig, the Cubs gig, the Dodgers gig, any professional sports gig. But those teams in particular, with the amount of history, the amount of fanfare, It seems as though they are extremely competitive. So, what was the interview process like for you, and how nerve-wracking was it as you're going through it, knowing that you could be the very first one and a big part of this new network?
Yeah, I think the nerves for me, luckily, weren't as high as you might expect because I knew I had a good job in Denver. So I felt like if this doesn't work out, I'm still fine. I have a great job in Denver, and so I didn't let the nerves kind of get to me. But really, it wasn't as rigorous of an interview process as you might have thought. Kind of got approached with the job end of November, didn't have any clue. I really didn't even know much about Marquee. I mean, I had heard the Cubs were launching their own network, but I didn't know what it was going to look like. And then as I started having conversations with the bosses there, and I had known them, I was an intern in college at MLB Network. And so our executive producer was there. So I kind of had that relationship. And my old director in Colorado, he went to, so my first year in Colorado, he was our director, and then he went to the Dodgers, and then the Cubs hired him. And so he also was going to be there. And so he put a good word in for me. So I kind of felt like once I got into the interview process, I was probably going to be a finalist. And I think that was more intimidating to begin with because I was like, oh my gosh, this just escalated so quick. Um, and I just tried to be myself. It was a lot of really just conversations about what the role would look like, kind of what they envisioned for the person who was going to take that role, kind of what they wanted out of the network. And I think both sides kind of saw that it was the perfect fit. We kind of had equal visions of what we wanted, and that's really how it worked out. So yeah, I mean, how I don't know what it was like when you got the Yankees job, but it was kind of because you were in Philly, right? Like you had a really good job in Philly.
Yeah,
You're from there.
it was kind of similar in the
Yeah.
sense I grew up a Sixers fan, and I was covering the Sixers for Comcast Sportsnet at the time, which is now NBC Philly. So I had a good gig. I was working in a top five market doing a job I loved with a group of people who were very good to me. At the same time, when you're in the running to work for Yes
For
Network
the
and to cover
Yankees.
the
Yeah.
Yankees, it's like you have to go, but there was still a little bit of a pull of, man, I was really comfortable there. Everyone treated me really well. This is my hometown, not necessarily my hometown. I'm from a little further north than that, Allentown, Wallaport area. But I went to school in Philly. All my friends were in Philly. So
So
from that
similar.
aspect, yeah, it was, I'm leaving home. This is it. And I had lived in New York a couple years prior for about a year and a half. And then the interview process for me, it ran really late. So I didn't get hired until mid March, and I had never even been up to the Yes Network studio.
Oh my
I
God.
yeah, I didn't do a spring training game. I flew to Tampa. I was still covering the Sixers, and they were in the heat of the NBA season. And I flew to Florida to meet the producer on the show, Bill Boland. I was like, "Hey, what's up? I'm Meredith. See you later. Got to go back north and do a Sixers game."
Oh
So I
my
went back and forth to Florida probably about 5 times in the course of like 7 to 10 days. Between the two jobs, it worked out that the Sixers were in Miami, and then the Yankees were in Miami because they were opening up that stadium down there. And then the Yankees started in Tampa with the Rays. That was their opener. And it was crazy. I didn't have a place in New York. Yes hooked me up with a temporary apartment that I didn't see. So this is kind of wild. So they started in Tampa, then they went to Baltimore. I rented a car to pick up my clothes at my place in Philly and drove to New York to the temporary place that they got for me for a month, and they're like, you have a month to figure it out. And I was like, okay. Like,
So when you were hired there, was it similar to the what I went through in terms of like everybody knows the Yankees, everybody knows the Cubs, like those are national franchises that I feel if you're a baseball fan, you know about.
yeah,
But did you have an appreciation for the depth of the history and kind of truly what the organization was before you got the job there?
I did to an extent because in 2010 I went from covering AAA baseball and doing some stuff in Philadelphia with radio and with TV to taking a job with ESPN radio and covering the Yankees and the Mets, and then doing work for SNY on the TV side. So I
Gotcha.
actually covered the Yankees, their home games. I didn't travel with them for a lot of the 2010 season. So I felt like I really had a leg up because I had met a lot of the players. I had been
Okay.
around the clubhouse. My role was wildly different. but at least I kind of knew the lay of the land. Whereas
Huge.
if you're an outsider walking in that without a spring training or without any knowledge, I have to imagine that that would be pretty intimidating. And my first game that I did was game one of the season in 2012. And Mariano Rivera, as we know, greatest closer of all time, blew a save. So I was like, hey, Mo, good to see you again. Meredith, by the way,
Oh
you're
no.
awesome. But yeah.
Oh geez. And I always feel bad for the guys in the bullpen because I always like they would always kind of give me crap like Taylor, you don't talk to me unless I do something bad. I'm like, you know, it's kind of the nature of the beast right there. It's like, you know, the bullpen guys kind of get underappreciated until or under I don't know if underappreciated because we do appreciate good guys out of the pen, but you just don't talk to them unless they do something bad, unfortunately. So it's kind of like, hey, welcome, welcome to the show, Meredith. Now go interview the Sandman, even though he's one of the greatest of all time.
Right. Wow. So, in the 2 years that you've covered the Rockies, what's the craziest thing that happened to you as a field reporter? Was there any like one instance where you were out in the crowd or just an interview that didn't go the way you thought it would go? Was there something crazy
Oh
that happened?
gosh. Well, early on, I had worked in local TV, and going from local TV to a regional network, I didn't understand or appreciate the learning curve. So, you know, I thought, okay, you know, t- I'm pretty well versed in baseball, and I feel like I have enough experience on TV. Like, this isn't going to be that hard of a transition. And it was. I mean, at first, it was like, you know, baseball, it's easy to ask broad questions, but it's hard to ask specific good questions because there's so many games and there's so many nuances that happen, and the verbiage of baseball is very specific. And so at first, I think everything was kind of a nightmare. and I mean, hopefully not to the viewers. I mean, I definitely wasn't as polished on air as I would have liked to be at first, but I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I ask that? Because I just didn't really know the grind of playing every day, and you just can't ask a guy like a starting pitcher every day, hey, what was your plan to attack the hitters today? You know what I mean? Like, it's so much more in depth than all that, and learning the statistics and learning just the in-depth part of baseball that I don't think I had an appreciation for. So that was kind of at first probably what didn't go my way. I'm trying to think of the wildest thing that happened. I can tell you that first year in September, the Rockies were vying for the National League West with the Dodgers, and the Dodgers have been the prize jewel of that division for several years. And so the fact that they kind of were in contention to potentially win the division was just so much fun. And we were in LA, and 3 game series, we're up by 1 game in the division late in September, and our starting shortstop, all-star shortstop, Trevor Story, gets hurt. And it was a huge series. Everybody was watching. It was a pivotal point for the team in that point in the season. And then all these national beat writers are reporting on what happened to Trevor. And I'm sitting here, the team reporter is supposed to know everything, and I had no idea what was happening. And so I think that was probably, when I look back, just the craziest 24 hours of, so he goes in, gets hurt, gets pulled, and then within that span of time, like, there's all these different tweets, there's all these different rumors, and then you have to go in the clubhouse, actually find out what's going on, and report that to fans on social media and then on our network. So I just remember that series and that specific event being like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, there's so much going on. But it was such an exciting time because, as you and I both know, if you're playing meaningful games in September, like, for us, that's what you want. Like, that's what makes our job so enjoyable.
I hear you. And it's always more fun in our particular role. If they're playing well, it makes our jobs just a little bit easier. And
Yeah.
obviously, they're much more willing to talk to you if they're having a good game or a good series or a good season in general.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, how have the guys with the Cubs been to deal with so far? How many spring training games did you guys do before everything was canceled?
So I think we did about 18. That's an approximate number. I did 16 of those, I think.
Oh, wow.
And the guys were awesome. You mentioned you had a leg up going into the Yankees because you had been in that clubhouse before. Where it's for me stepping into the Cubs, I hadn't really ever met any of those players. I mean, I had interviewed Anthony Rizzo once when I was with the Rockies, because Bud Black, the manager of the Rockies, was his manager when he debuted with the Padres.
Mhm.
So there was some connections. And the baseball world is small. Like every guy knows somebody, and so there was a few connections that I had. But for the most part, I stepped in there and they had no idea who I was. And that, of course, is challenging, but it was fun. I think it's exciting to kind of get to know a new clubhouse, a new organization, just the way that the Cubs do things. I'm a huge fan of, and I loved getting to know that system. And the players were awesome. I mean, during spring training, obviously everybody's a little more relaxed because the games don't count and you're still excited and there's a lot of hope for the season. And you get to be more personal in your interviews. I felt like I would always get one guy coming off of the field when they were done playing, and I got to mess around with them, different things that I saw on their social medias, or if I knew something was going on with their family, kind of got to talk to them on a personal level. And so that, of course, helps because you just don't. I think it's really important for us to know these guys on a personal level and to be able to help fans see that as well. And so getting the chance to see that helps you connect with them on a deeper level, which in turn helps you do your job better. So they've been awesome. And it was funny. We were texting a bunch of the guys in our production crew with Marquee. We were like, we've never been more excited for a baseball season, and then it gets postponed. So I just can't wait for the day that we play baseball again, hopefully in the near future.
I'm sure, and it's kind of like that on the Yankees side too, with the addition of Garrett Cole. They're a team that won 100 plus games last year. They've been to the ALCS 2 out of the last 3 years, and you thought this was really going to be their year. And of course, as we know, what happened was out of everybody's control. But
Mm-hmm.
that was the feeling around Yankees camp. This is the most excited people have been in years and years and years, broadcasters included, fans included, just the whole feel this spring training has been. This is going to be a really exciting season, and hopefully it still is if things get underway. Now, does Marquee have you doing anything right
Um,
now? Are you guys doing
One thing that
programming?
it's breaking up. Do you have
Oh,
me?
I have you.
Can
You're
you
back
hear
now.
me?
Yeah,
Okay, okay, okay.
yeah, I get you.
Um, So one thing that was really cool for me when I got to be a part of the Cubs spring training this year is just the level of fandom that the Cubs have. And Yankees are obviously probably the number one team in all of baseball, just the popularity. So at spring training, are there an insane amount of fans who come to just watch guys take ground balls? I mean, I had never experienced that before with the Rockies and with the Cubs. I mean, it was the first day of spring training, and you had fans lined up down the fences just to watch these guys take ground balls. And to me, I was like, oh my gosh, that's nuts. But so cool as a broadcaster because you want to be a part of something that people care about. And it was so cool to see that fandom. So I'm curious what it's like down in Tampa with the Yankees.
Yankees fans are legit. They care. They know the game. They are intense. They expect a lot out of the players. And ground balls, I mean, that's like a full blown activity. They're there day one when pitchers and catchers report, and they'll watch just the jogging on the backfield from the pitchers. They just
Oh
want
my,
to be up close and personal with some of these guys. And as you know, with the ballparks being as big as they are these days, spring training is oftentimes the only opportunity for a lot of fans to kind of get a little bit more up close and personal where it's a more
good
laid
point.
back feel. You might be able to yell to somebody and they might actually hear them and acknowledge them, which is kind of
Mm-hmm.
cool. And the best is watching the little kids that come, sometimes in a full uniform, that are there just hoping to get that one autograph. And when they get it, the look on their faces is just priceless. Priceless to see.
Which, speaking of young Yankee fans, how cool of a story is it that Garrett Cole grew up a Yankee fan? There's that famous photo of
Yeah.
him holding the sign. I mean, when he got introduced and he had that sign, I got goosebumps just thinking how cool that must be for him and how cool it is for all the fans to kind of relate like, hey, this guy was one of us, just a normal fan, and now he's getting paid millions and millions of dollars to pitch at Yankee Stadium. I think that's so cool.
Yeah. And his opening press conference could not have been better if you scripted it. He was so impressive, said all the right things, but it wasn't just a case of somebody saying the right things. You believed it. You believed what he was saying about how this is where he wanted to be. It's always where he wanted to be. And as far as that sign is concerned, when news broke at winter meetings in San Diego that Garrett Cole was signing with the Yankees, I had a friend of mine that works out in Pittsburgh that covered Garrett when he was a Pirate and said, yo, he still has the sign. I'm telling you, his dad still has the sign for him. So I had a hot tip on the sign from a friend of mine. So I knew that he had it. I did not know that he was going to pull it out at that press conference. But as soon as I saw the kind of wonky bag with something in it, I'm like, that's totally the sign. I know
Oh
it's
my
happening
God.
here. I'm hip to
Okay,
the game.
so backstory on Garrett Cole as well. You talked about he came up with the Pirates. I interned with the Pirates in 2013, the season that he debuted. So I was at his debut game, and I have never seen a fan base so in tune to a prospect coming up and making their debut. I mean, it was nuts. And it was also crazy because that was first when Major League Baseball installed the policy to go through the security, the metal detectors, like all of that,
Right.
because it didn't. So that was the first game. So there was lines of people on this street because it was taking longer than usual to get into the games.
Yeah.
But it was so cool. I remember his debut. He got a hit. I think it was his first at bat that he got a hit. Um, but man, that was so cool to see the love the fans had for him from day one. And then, of course, what he did in Pittsburgh there, he quickly became the ace and then had success in Houston. And I'm sure that's just going to continue with the Yankees. So it's been fun to follow his career because I kind of was like, oh, I was a little bit there from day one as a little intern. He would have no idea who I was, but it was fun it's been fun to follow his career.
It's nice when you have a personal connection with somebody and you know them and you're both young together and you kind of come up through the ranks together. I used to cover minor league baseball a lot, so I have a couple of guys.
Yeah.
Some of them are out of the league already, so I'm like, oh man. But a couple of them are still in the league, and it is you kind of, even though you're supposed to be, you know, you're not supposed to have favorites, but you do kind of pull for people that you've known for a really long time.
Oh, for
Obviously,
sure.
that doesn't get in the way of your reporting. You know, you still do your job, but if you know somebody on a personal level, you certainly want to see them succeed more often than not.
Yeah.
Now, when you're talking about the fans and the influx of Cubs fans that kind of caught you off guard, is there a crazy fan story that you've had yet?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's all sorts of them. So, one, people might have seen it because it went viral, but one of my first games, spring training games, David Bodie, who actually, side story on David Bodie, I covered his debut. He debuted against the Rockies. So he was kind of one of the connections that I had. And he grew up in Denver, not far from where I grew up. So he's been really awesome to me and just kind of helped the transition. So he comes up to me, he goes, hey, film this. And I turn around, I'm like, what? And it was these two fans. They had come down to the front row, brought a bat and a ball, and I was like, what's going on here? Well, they wanted David to be a part of their gender reveal, so they so he would grab the bat, and they had this ball to determine which gender their baby was going to be, obviously pink girl, boy blue. And so they threw the ball and he hits it and it explodes and it's this pink dust everywhere. And so I filmed it, and the video I posted on social media, the video went viral. It was everywhere and it was just hilarious. And so I ended up get interviewing the fans in game, kind of like why they picked David Bodie and their story. But it was awesome. And they were just huge diehard Cubs fans. And apparently last year when David Bodie hit the walk-off grand slam, the husband had called it, and so that's why they chose David Bodie. And I've been in touch with them since, and they're getting so it's a little girl, and they are going to name her Sloan after Sloan Park down in Mesa. So I mean, it's just, yeah, it's so cool. And there's been so many fans who I've met. I mean, and I'm sure you can relate to this with the Yankees. Just people who their whole family is named after some Cubs player, or you know, Ivy. I've heard Ivy, the name Ivy, because of the Ivy at Wrigley Field, and Wrigley. So many dogs named Wrigley, and so just the true love of the organization. There's so many people who are diehard Cub fans, and I definitely experienced that at spring training. You experience it when you go on the road, and it's supposed to be a road game, yet there's more Cub fans there than the home team. And you know that with the Yankees. I mean, I've been a part of Yankee games when they come to Colorado, and they're everywhere. But that for me has been so cool, and just so cool to kind of be a part of it, and meet all these people, and they just care so deeply about the team.
I've been a part of 3 proposals. One on the warning track, one on the warning track that the gentleman, I forget his name, I apologize. He has hit me up a couple times. I had met him once somewhere, and he's like, "Hey, I'm proposing this date. Will you film it and help out?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Like, I don't remember.
Oh my gosh.
So he hit me up, and I was like, "Oh, that's right. I did say I would do that. So I'm trying to be a woman of my word." And sure enough, I was on the warning track. They were on the warning track for BP. This was last year or the year before, and he got down on one knee, and his fiance could not have been more surprised. The other one I was indirectly a part of. It was years ago. The guy, and we still don't know if it was planned or not planned. Do you remember the one that went viral where the guy dropped the ring and they couldn't find the ring in the upper deck of Yankee
Oh my
Stadium?
gosh, yes. Were you there?
Yes, I had to go out and interview them. I was like,
Oh
what
my
the hell
gosh.
happened?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know what I was going to ask you about this. Speaking of moments that have gone viral, the famous, I believe it was Jeter's last game where his
Oh,
nephew
Jalen Jeter. I
does
know. The Jalen Jeter?
yes, and you were there. I saw the meme MLB posted on Twitter, and you're in the meme. I was like, so what was
Yeah.
that moment like for you? That had to have been so cool.
So that was after he had hit the game winning hit. So the
Okay.
whole circumstance of Jeter's final game just seems like it's not real. The
Yeah.
game really didn't mean anything as far as playoff contention, but it felt like a playoff game, like a World Series game atmosphere. And David Robertson, who was having a phenomenal year, blew a save to get to the ninth so that Jeter would actually come up. A guy, I think it was, yeah. So it would have never happened had Robertson not blown the save. And then Jeter gets up and you're like, no way is this going to happen. And of course it's Derek Jeter, so it happens. It's a storybook ending. It's unbelievable. Everybody's going crazy. So I always come from the third base side, and I'm walking over to interview Jeter and his parents, his mom, his dad, his now wife Hannah, and his sister Charlie, and his son, or I'm sorry, her son Jalen, were there, and that's little Jalen. And Jalen just turned. Oh man, he just had a birthday. I saw on Charlie's Instagram, but he's all grown up now too. I'm like, oh my gosh,
He is
you
so
were such
cute.
a little peanut during that. I was 14, but yeah, that was wild. That was wild, and I'm trying to think of anything else that's happened that has been really really bizarre. Um, Oh, the other, wait, what was the other one? Oh, a friend of mine that I went to high school with who had kind of lost touch, but I remember the name. I do a women's fantasy camp down here in Tampa.
Oh, cool.
I have a Yankees women's fantasy camp, and they play baseball. They bring back some old Yankees. It's kind of a cool experience. No men's baseball uniforms, not great for the female build, but that's beside the point. You throw one on, you get after it.
Yes.
So my friend's sister always participates in the camp, and the whole family comes down, and it just so happened that her fiance wanted to propose, but she's a huge Yankees fan, always has been, and they wanted to do it on the video board. Her sister reached out to me and said, they're all full for the year. Do you happen to know another way or somebody else? And I was like, why don't you just come early? You guys can do it in the booth. So it was a booth proposal.
Oh
A
my gosh.
proposal.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
You're
it
like,
was
please
fun.
say yes. Please say yes.
I even got him a little cake. I was like, they can't not have a cake,
Oh
right?
my gosh. That's so nice. That's so cute.
So you're in Colorado now. Do you have
Yes.
a place in Chicago, or you didn't even get that far yet?
Do have a place in Chicago, and I luckily I was able to push back the date about a month, um, but I still have it starting the end of April. So I'm not sure when I'll move up there yet. Obviously, it depends on a lot of stuff that happens, but I have it starting the end of April. So it's been kind of wild. I was in limbo. I actually had my own place in Denver that I was supposed to be out of by the end of the month. I'm at my mom's house right now. She lives in Denver, just as temporary because I'm like, well, where do I go? So I was supposed to move out of my place last weekend, move to Chicago, and of course start the season, but that kind of got put on hold. And so, um, just been in limbo. And you're down in Tampa, right?
Clearwater, yeah. So about
Okay.
20 minutes from Tampa. So I stayed down here once they decided to cancel spring training and suspend the start of the season. I'm fortunate that I have a place down here. I live here in the off season, so I'm like, I'm not going back till I have to.
Yeah, that's really nice. That's kind of what I plan to do with Phoenix, be in Phoenix in the off season because I love Chicago, but I don't know if I can do a Chicago winter.
I grew up in the Northeast, but I don't mess with snow. So
Yeah,
here we
you're like,
are.
but you travel a lot. I feel like you're. I mean, I know when I saw you in July, you had just gone somewhere. I believe for the All-Star break, right? Or
Yeah,
maybe.
I went to, well, the Yankees played in London. I hit Paris before London. I had the series off before the London series, which was awesome. And then I was home for 2 days, and then I went to Italy over the All-Star break.
Oh my.
So Northern Italy, that's getting hit so hard right now, breaks my heart because I love Italy in general, but Northern Italy in particular. It was the first time I was up in Como and all that area, and it was amazing. So I hope not only do they rebound there, but we rebound here, especially in New York
Yeah.
City. A lot of family and friends that are there that I'm certainly hoping remain safe and everybody is smart and everybody does the right thing.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, we're supposed to play in London mid July or mid June, so probably won't happen. But I'm like holding on to hopes because was that experience awesome for you last
It
year?
was it was great. And if you need any spots in London, I'm your girl. I got you
No.
covered.
Okay, good. Perfect.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. It was the atmosphere was like that of a playoff atmosphere, if not more, because they essentially had concerts before every game. There are only 2 games, but every game. They had, a performer and then a big national anthem thing, and it was really cool. It was neat.
So did
It was
you
cool.
get to meet the royal family?
I did not. I saw them. I saw Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, and they went into both clubhouses and addressed the clubhouses. And I actually, I obtained video from somebody that was inside and was able to post it on social media, which wound up everywhere. The problem being, I sent it out so fast, I didn't do the proofread and then the proofread again.
So
So
then you're like,
spelled I spelled
something wrong?
something wrong. I don't know.
Of course, that's happened to me before. And then you're like, well, this already has 100 retweets, so now I can't delete it. Shoot.
It's out there now. Everyone thinks I'm a moron. I'm not. I know how to spell, but
It's just, I
clearly
know.
here I am.
You know
So
what? I sometimes mess up on social media is during in the middle of the game when I'm trying to tweet out the score and I'll tweet the wrong score. And people are like, "Are you watching?" I'm like, "Yeah." The problem is I'm watching too much that I'm not paying attention to my phone. So yes, I
yeah,
know the score. I just accidentally tweeted the wrong one.
yeah, and the trolls online are certainly super forgiving with that stuff. So that's
Yeah,
always fun.
yeah, yeah.
So have you learned how to pack yet in your 2 years? Have you got that done?
No, I'm terrible at packing. Actually, I have learned a trick, and I don't know if you do this, but I use Rent the Runway,
Oh,
and oh my gosh, it's a huge lifesaver because you basically like I'll get clothes shipped to my house for let's say a 10-day road trip, and I get 6 items at a time. So I'll pack the 6 items and then usually, obviously more for the rest of the games. And then as I'm done wearing them, I can just drop them at the front desk and they ship them off. So I don't have to worry about dry cleaning or anything. And my bag progressively gets lighter throughout throughout the trip. So that is one thing that I've learned. Other than that, though, I'm really bad with cosmetics. I always seem to forget something. So I kind of learned at the end of last year to just have a separate bag, like my travel bag, and I don't touch it when I'm home because I know inevitably if I touch it and I bring something out, I'm gonna forget to pack that again. So if I'm open to tips, I mean, I know I probably did about 60 road games last year, and this year, well, I was supposed to do all 81, but that's obviously not the case now. But you do, I mean, you do all of them, right?
pretty much. Every now and again, I'll get some off, but I'm not the woman to come to for tips. My philosophy is this: wake up morning of, never pack ahead of time. Wake up morning of, 50-50 shot that I never unpacked from the last road trip because I had, quote, better, and then frantically throw everything out, throw some things in, with the mentality of if I forget it, I'll just go find a new one. So it
Yeah.
really rationalizes a shopping habit. And I don't think that there has been a CVS or a Dwayne Reed or name your drugstore that I haven't been in any baseball city. Because
Well,
you
I'm glad
always
we're on the
forget.
same page with that because I'm the
Yeah,
same way. I'm like, where's the nearest CVS? Because I forgot deodorant or toothpaste or something. And I'm like,
something every time. Every time.
yeah, every time.
I'm
And it's funny you said you haven't unpacked because that is one thing I know for sure. My suitcase is never fully unpacked the entire year.
yeah,
It
why
it
bother?
yeah, no, it just stays. And actually, this year I did college football, so it stayed unpacked till the end of December. My mom was like, "Are you going to ever do anything about that?" I'm like, "Nope, it's fine."
Wait it out. I mean, we've
Yeah,
gone this long.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I would be willing to bet that I have like 4 suitcases in my place here just because I go back and forth a lot and
yeah.
I'm down here for a long period of time. I'd be willing to bet there's at least one that I haven't touched and they're still closed. Also, the proud owner of about 4 curling irons
Oh, same.
because
I've forgotten curling irons and straighteners, and I've had to go buy them in cities for sure. Yeah.
we should really develop a how-to guide. Maybe do the opposite of what we're doing, or just
Yeah,
become a
exactly. I
guide.
know. I'm sure there's got to be at least one reporter in baseball that's got it down. I don't know.
Doubtful. No, maybe. All right. Anything else on your mind before we get going? I'm sure you have. Oh, you have a family event tonight.
I do a family event, and by that we mean a virtual happy hour. So that's kind of what it's become is just everything online. So it was funny because to people who don't know our text conversation earlier, Meredith texted me and said, what time could you do it? And she's like, I'm free all night. I go, well, I usually would be free all night. But tonight I have a family happy hour that we're going to have via Zoom. So it's kind of me and my extended family. So I think there's probably 15 of us. We're all going to hop on Zoom. So you got to make this time work in some way, and that's kind of our
You do.
way.
It's been working. Did you know what Zoom was 2 weeks ago?
So it's funny. I have a friend who works for Zoom, and I knew what it was, but I hadn't downloaded it. And I downloaded it because I've had multiple Zoom meetings in the past week, and I need to text him and be like, hey, your work probably is super busy right now because I feel like everybody is now using your product.
It's like the new greatest thing that not only people in TV, but just everyone to stay in touch and put a lot of people on the screen at one time. It's been awesome. And it's been a lifesaver for a lot of people that they can see.
Yeah. So is Instagram Live. I mean, I hadn't spent a ton of time on Instagram Live, but here we are.
Here we are. We're doing it. Well, if you're ever bored and want to do it again, I'm your girl. Just let me know. I do
Yeah.
this Monday through Friday. I think I'm going to take the weekends off and then get back at it on Monday, come up with a schedule.
Nice.
So if you'd like to catch up again, that
I'm
number.
in. Let me know. I am in. I don't have a lot going on, just an occasional happy hour with a family.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, I'll see you later. Be safe.
Okay, thanks so much. It was so fun
Talk to
talking to you.
you too. Bye.
Okay, bye.